My husband said, just send off the 2 rolls and see what happens. So I held my breath for 2 days, sent off the 2 rolls to the advertising agency, and they called me and said, Sarah, these are great. We're a little surprised in 3.5 days you only took 2 rolls of film, but you know, these are nice. So I thought, oh my gosh, I can't, and should I tell them? Well, years later I got to be friendly with him, and I told him the whole story. We had a big laugh about the whole thing. But boy, was I scared then. I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I tried to put a flash in. A flash had a, you know, if you put a flash in this room, it's a, you need at least need an umbrella, which I didn't even know to bring. I just thought, I'll throw a flash and see what happens. But we couldn't look in the back of the camera in those days because it was, you know, those were the SLRs, that, you know, the regular ones. So I just thought, okay, a lesson learned. And they said, we love the pictures, Sarah, but next time could you take more? And I'm thinking, there will never be a next. And he said, no, we really do like your work. So do you want us to give you more money for film? Is that what the problem was? I said, no, that's not a real problem. If you want more, I'll get you more. But then he said, so next week, I said, you know, I'm kind of busy for 6 weeks. And I thought, I am going to kill myself to learn photography in 6 weeks. So for I actually took about 5 weeks. Every day I took pictures and brought them to Gorchef, took more pictures, called B&H, read books, went to every library in the whole, that's when I learned that you could get all the books, they'll send all the books to one library if you want. I just wanted, I couldn't go on the internet, I just wanted all the books I could get. Norman McGrath I learned about all kinds of architectural photographers, read book after book, went to bookstores, went to B&H, got my lights, they came in, I tried those with the umbrellas. I called B&H, I needed a little bit more advice, and they were very good at helping me, by the way. Hunts, then I started taking my bedrooms, every room I knew, all my relatives' rooms. I'd see people on the street, can I take a picture of your bathroom? Go for it, I don't care. I said, I'll give you the pictures afterward. I learned in 5 weeks how to do architectural photography. And I didn't tell them the story for about 3 years. They said, well, you go back, just remember to take a few more. I said, oh, okay, yeah, I will this time. And I did, and I took, it was a small place, 6 or 7 rolls. I think there were 4 pictures that I didn't like, and I thought, okay, you can learn this real fast. I had the composition down, but I certainly had nothing. I knew nothing about lighting, and I just figured, how hard can this be? I'm doing pretty well in my camera club. I needed to learn the lighting, but you can do it. And now you can go online and learn it. You're learning a little bit tonight. I'm sure my lines were crooked. I knew nothing, but then I learned real fast on how to do it. So that's how I started with this whole thing. So, okay, an answer to someone's question. One time a magazine asked me if I could take a picture of a contemporary kitchen. They said, we just want to fill it with lots of different kitchens, but it has to be pretty contemporary, and it has to have an island. So go to the next one. It wasn't contemporary, so I just changed it in Photoshop and put the different thing, changed the cabinets. You can go back. I just want to show you, see that ray of light there that wasn't there before? I added that. That just adds a little sparkle to it, and then you can go back again. So then it's my friend's kitchen, and she said, actually, we're going to kind of redecorate it like this. We kind of like this better. She took all the things up at the top down and put the little curtains on and everything. So, okay. And then you can go through these fast. This is just, I like to add people to my pictures, so there's several of them in a row. We can just go right through them. And people here, this is Burano, Italy. I like to put people where again, Camera Club wouldn't like the backs of people, sorry. They like the people showing, but you can go through those. And here, little grandmother. Do you know Burano? I think we have a few more minutes. Do you know Burano, where all the colors of the houses are different, just different colors? It's kind of like names in America. What name you have, you're born to, that's the name you keep until you get married. Even though it's going away a little bit, that's if you're born to a color in Burano, you're born to this blue. That's the color you have until you get married, and you married somebody with green or yellow, that's the color you take over. So the big industry is really not fishing, it's painting. They paint houses all the time. I thought, oh, this is going to be a beautiful fishing village. Painters are everywhere. They're just changing, every time anybody moves. But anyway, if you're born with like pea green, man, you can get married real quick because you got to change that color. But I like to put people into my pictures. It just adds a little bit of human interest there. Same there. I did this for Not Your Average Joe's down the Cape, and they said, get some people there. And the only people there were kind of the kids. It was they had just opened and they wanted for a magazine or something. So I took it just with the kids because they said, oh, that's fine as long as some people there. And then the people who were sitting here got up and walked away, and then I really didn't have, so I got the manager and the hostess in, and I said, let me get you out here and put you in front. So they put that picture out, and I'll put that one. For these kids, they're not recognizable, and for these people, I did get releases. They didn't want them. I always get releases. Nobody seems to want them, but they do ask if you have them. They just want to know that you have them, and I would never lie about it, so I usually do get releases. People think they're going to be on the cover of Time magazine. They give release. They'll sign. I think I had one person in 15 years out of hundreds and hundreds who've refused to sign a release, and so I don't use it. I mean, I honor that, but people, they think they're going to be famous. They're going to be on the cover of Time magazine. I said, no, this is just a little ad. No, they don't care, so, okay. People in Rome or something, they didn't speak English. You've seen this one before. They didn't speak English. I didn't speak Italian, but they knew what I meant. I said, photo? Yeah, it's okay. And this one. And this lady here, this was for a job I had in Philadelphia. A company just sent me down there. And they wanted their pool and their exercise room. They always say no people because they don't want to have to deal with photo releases, getting models and all that stuff. They say no people. So this lady said, I know I'm not supposed to be out here, but I just wanted to get a little tan. I said, no problem. She was way on the side. I said, would you like to be in the picture? Would she? She thought she got a modeling job. So she actually was wearing a green bathing suit. I changed it to blue. Again, it doesn't show. Put a little cloud in the sky that wasn't there before. So I gave this to the company, and they actually did put this in here. They actually did use the one with the person, because the next one I also gave them, which I think is, yeah. And she wasn't there, and they never want people in their pictures. But I think when I asked them, they said, oh, we don't want to get into finding models and all. They said, but if you find somebody and you got a photo release, I said, yes, I did. So it worked. Okay. MIT, now in camera clubs, they don't like blurry kinds of things, but and editorial, they don't seem to care, and buildings, they don't. This was not an assignment anyway, but, and you can go through the next couple. I think they also have some blurry pictures. It doesn't matter, just drag your shutter a little bit, and then the people will be blurry, as you know. Same here, blurry person, and then you don't have to worry about photo releases. These are food. As a lot of times you do pictures, I do pictures for restaurants. They always ask, and actually that's not true. I'm doing the architecture, and I say to them, would you like a food picture taken? Do you know why I ask them that? Because afterwards they always offer you the food. And then, by that time we're hungry usually, and then you look at it and they say, oh, no, we'll get you some fresh food. We always get fresh food, so next picture, please. And then that was my husband. I made him pose a few times. First of all, this is what, in the flash days, I took the flash, and guess what happened? There was a big blob of white light there. So then I learned, because I learned so much those 5 weeks, I said, I'll bounce my flash into a card, which will bounce back, and it worked. And he said, okay. Okay. Post-production, so sadly it's necessary about every image. The standards have changed. Everybody's looking for perfect, their idea of perfect, which isn't our idea of perfect. Again, the blurry stuff, that lady couldn't even see the blur. When I pointed it out, she still didn't see any blur. So our standards are different than theirs sometimes. And do you see that fire? That's a Musumeci fire, Sarah Musumeci fire. You see it starts kind of low and goes higher. You'll see that fire. If you see a picture with that fire and it's my picture, you just always know it because of the fires. And so go ahead. See that picture? And then the next one, the fire appears. And then the next one, again, I don't light fires anymore. You've seen that one before. And the next one, there's the fire. See how it goes right up there in a line? And the next one doesn't have it. By the way, I also fill wine. I am a klutz. I will drop things. There's Coke in that bottle, and there's nothing in this bottle. And if you go back one, I'm sorry, just go back 1 second. Whoops. Yeah, go back one more. You'll see I put it in. It's easy sometimes in Photoshop than to, I think I used the whole bottle of Coke there, and I thought, you know what, I'll just do that in Photoshop. It takes 2 seconds. You just make a line and fill it in, put a little bit of highlights on it. That's easy to do. And even these, if you go one more, maybe we'll finish with it. Oh, okay, it doesn't matter. That's right. You can fix bed sheets and all kinds of things in Photoshop. You've seen that fire? Forward? Yeah, just forward now, yeah. And that's the... Okay, and then, you've seen that fire before, same fire. I don't remember where I took that fire. And that fire, now this one here, for that magazine, they didn't put the fire in because it was summertime, and they thought, well, who would be putting a fire in a fireplace in the summer? I just thought, when you see the next one, I just thought the fire looked nicer than that one. See, they had the glare in there. I said, oh, no, that's fine. I thought, oh, my. Again, our standards are higher than theirs sometimes. Yeah, nobody, I don't, no. First of all, you can use blending modes if you want, but most of the time I just put it right in there. Nobody ever says, oh, excuse me, there's a grill. Wait a minute, that grill doesn't go off. Nobody's looking at that. They just say, oh, look at that room. It works. That's all. Nobody's really looking to say, is there a grill? Does it go through the grill? I just take that fire and bring it right over and, make the proportions and transform. I take Command or Control T with distort, and you just bring it to the right outsides of the fireplace. It takes about 30 seconds to do. It's real easy. Okay? And then bed and breakfast. This is Doral, where they just had that the golf thing over the weekend. This is the Doral Country Club down there, and this is what the room looked like when I finished with it, and the next picture shows what it looked like before, when my husband sat on the beds and everything, and I kicked him out and said, all right, let's clean this up a little bit. But you can do so many things in Photoshop just to make everything look a lot nicer, and you can go back and forth on those too. It just looks so much cleaner with the pillows cleaned up, and the room never looks so nice. And then what I do is I say to these people, would you like this picture? They say, oh, that's great. What do you charge? I say, well, just give us a free night next time we come. And they say, oh, that's wonderful. Sometimes I do it on my laptop real quick. I can't tell you, we must have gotten 30 free rooms. I always find a really nice hotel that needs a little work on their pictures. You can tell when a hotel's nice and the pictures aren't so nice. That's where you get your free rooms all the time. My husband's saying, are we paying for this room? Oh no, I'll work it out. Sometimes it's the next time we go, to be honest. They don't always, if you've already paid, they don't give you, they always say, no, come anytime, stay for a couple of nights, no problem. We do that a lot, so. Same with the next one too, I think. Constitution Inn right here in Boston. This room, these people are lovely. The rooms are spotless. What they didn't have is pillows that worked. You can show them the next picture. It looked like that. Those pillows had a mind of their own. We kept fluffing them up. My poor assistant, I'd say, no, just pull this bed. Something's wrong. She'd pull on one side to get wrinkle on the other. Pull on that side. Finally, I said, I'll just do this in Photoshop. It's just way too much time. It took me maybe 15 minutes, but we'd already spent a half an hour trying to make the room look good. So if you go back and forth on those two, you can see we just cleaned the whole thing up so much nicer. Even curtains, curtains like that, they don't look so good. So fix them, it's just very easy in Photoshop. Someone asked me one time when I was doing one of these shows, she said, so where is that ironing tool in Photoshop? It's called the clone at about 85%. Once in a while, I even use the paintbrush. You don't get and making sure it's a sharp, not a feathered brush, a sharp brush, because you want, if you use a paintbrush, it's too solid sometimes. But sometimes, even when it looks perfect, you want to get a couple of wrinkles to make it look realistic. But you want to get rid of most of the wrinkles, and it works pretty well. Sometimes I do this job for Pfizer in Boston. They just opened a new building near Longwood Avenue. And A.T. Villa is the name of the company that put the things in, so it's kind of working for both of them. And so they worked in this building, putting this building together for 3.5 years, or putting this office, this whole suite together for 3.5 years. They got it just right. And then the next day they finished was supposed to be my day for photography, but that was the day they decided to move in. I figured 3.5 years, they couldn't find 1/2 a day for me. They knew what was coming, they knew they wanted pictures. So on one end, I got the people moving out. On the other end, I've got the people finishing with the lights. I've got one more screw here, and I'm trying to take pictures. So we'd move everything aside, I'd get some quick pictures, they'd put all the stuff back, I'd go over here, and it was really hard. They don't give you a lot of time for pictures sometimes. You need to move real fast. And then sometimes you need to Photoshop a few things out. I don't want to be touching these people's purses that left there. Just Photoshop them right out. Okay. And same here. Oh, by the way, this wasn't even finished. This red line was here, and the red chairs. And this was all raw wood. This was raw wood here. I had to paint it in Photoshop. You become a painter. And they said the color will be about the same color as the chairs. So I tried to find it, so I did that there. They pay a little extra for that, but sometimes you just have to do crazy things because they weren't quite ready. So exterior tips, of course, the best lighting is at dusk, dawn, late afternoon, evening. Leading lines do help, you know that. Diagonals help. Items of interest help, including putting people in there. We'll go through this pretty fast because there's one more story at the end. So this is a noonday kind of shot. That doesn't look so good. And I tell my husband when at dinner time we want to, dusk, so the next one. Of course, he likes to eat at dusk. So I'm taking nighttime pictures, but I still think a nighttime picture is better than a noontime picture, okay? And same thing, that was noontime, and then the next one, or a little earlier, then it turned into a night picture, which is really a pretty picture. It doesn't show so well here, and then the next one. And then down the Cape, They told me they needed these pictures for Mass Office of Tourism or Cape Cod Travel Guide or something, I can't remember. And then they said, but I just went down to look on my own, and this is what it looked like. So I knew I had to be there early in the morning or late in the day. So the next one. So I had much better lighting. Unfortunately, Mass Office of Tourism didn't want it because it had seaweed in it. They don't want anyone to know that Massachusetts has any seaweed or snow. So I had to go back yet again. And funny, one other day there was no seaweed early in the morning, so I got the picture after that.
So it's really one house and you duplicated it in Photoshop.
Yeah, not exactly. Although there is a house down the Cape. Well, I think there are 5 houses in a row, and they had they're cute little cottages in a row. Each one had a different color. So I changed the colors a little bit and gave it to them, and they put it. It's in the airport, I think, when you're going to Ireland or coming back from Ireland. Little houses down the Cape, all different colors, not the real colors. But I told them, I fessed up. I said, these aren't the colors. She said they could have painted them that color. That's fine. So there it is, a big picture of. So sometimes you have to fix lawns, and you can go to the next one. You can see how it didn't look so good. And that's pretty easy in Photoshop. Go back, and I put a little sky in there, too, sometimes. Just a few clouds, just throw in there. Which they have cloud brushes, you know. You don't have to import a cloud picture. Just get a brush. They're free, and they're on the internet, so, okay. And then sometimes you don't have to do much of anything. I work for Royal Crest. Actually, it's Aimco who owns Royal Crest. And this happens to be behind my house. And if the lighting's just right, and they don't want shadows on the building, but this worked out pretty well. There was a nice sky there. I didn't have to do anything, okay. So use all of the compositional guidelines that you've been practicing in your club. The rule of thirds loosely applied, rule of odd numbers, leading lines, balanced diagonals. Bullseye is okay in flower photography and in architectural photography. Merges, near merges, and even cropping in odd places are all accepted in architectural photography, not necessarily in your camera club. They don't like merges. Architectural people don't care about those things. And we'll go through these pretty fast, too. Rule of that's leading lines, kind of a third. Okay. Another leading line from down the Cape. Leading lines right up to the lighthouse, which is a structure. Rule of thirds and uneven numbers. I have no idea what that rule is. Just keep going. I don't know how that got in the next. So there's kind of a bullseye place that I took, put the flowers in Photoshop. They're a little too bright there. But it's okay. Bullseye's okay in architectural photography. Oh, this is a good story. Isn't that picture awful? Well, they called me from MIT and said, can you do a picture of, we're actually building something, and this is a few years ago, so the building, I think, is almost built. It's right in this space. We want a picture of that empty space there. We're going to hire a helicopter, and I said, just stop right now. I don't do helicopters. They said, no, 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 just a few minutes. I said, there's no way I'm going up in a helicopter. Find a place from far away or close or whatever, but I'm not doing it. They said, all right, so they found a space, but now this is in Cambridge, as you know, and we're in Boston, looking over the river. So I went up there. There's an art director, there's the director of the buildings. I don't know who all these people were, and the people from the building themselves, security, so we don't take anything, I guess. We went way up high, and I took the picture, and I had to rent a 500 millimeter lens. I knew we were far. She took the picture, and the guy said, oh, that's perfect. And I thought, that's not a good picture. So I said, no, give me a few more minutes. We just got here. So I took like 15 more pictures, after before. Now I took lots of pictures after that terrible thing that happened in Goshen, Vermont. So what I did was I took 15 or 20 more pictures. I don't know, they all looked the same. They were horrible. So go ahead. So I came home, and I put a little more contrast with it, which you can't see here, but it is. And then the next one, I fixed it a little bit. I made it a little closer, so again, that space is right there, right in back of the trees. And the next one. And then I got a little more contrast, and then it showed more what he was looking for. Although he liked, remember, sometimes they don't have the standards we did. I would never have given him the first picture, but after this had a little more contrast with it, I think that's about what they were looking for. No sky or anything, and all these crazy things up here. But so just to be creative, I did the next picture. And I took out that building, and if you can go back and forth, I took these trees and moved them over. This was an MIT building, and all I could see was the top of it. If you want to go back, we can see the top of the building. So I took that, and I don't know what it even looks like. To this day, I think I went by it a few times, but and you keep going back and forth, and you'll see all of those things. I took out the boathouse. But some lady in my club said, can I just ask, when you took out that building in the front, right in front of you, was that boat there behind it? I just said yes. What could I say? This lady needed 3 years worth of work to teach her, no, that boat wasn't there. But I gave them anyway, and I put the clouds here. I took out the cranes, built up their building, and when he first saw it, remember, I always give the originals though. I always want to tell him. He said, oh, this is wonderful. And I said, yeah, but this is the real one. He said, oh, okay. Well, so which one did they use? Of course they use this one here, because that's kind of just a little bit more pleasant, and they do see things like that. So always give the original and any creative work you want, as long as it's not far out, okay? And then again, that's the original. But he said, oh, that's fine, that's what we wanted. And then the next. Okay, so this I took in Salem. We're going to wrap it up in a minute, but this picture, I wanted a Christmas card, and I went to Salem, Mass, because I love Salem, Mass. It's not too far from me, and I thought that was kind of interesting, but it was just kind of a lousy day. So the next photograph, I took this tree out, I took the benches out, and I built up the buildings behind it and put a little snow in it, and you'll see what my Christmas card looked like. And put a little sun in the sky there, which you can't really see then. It's a little pink cast to it. And so sometimes it's very easy to do things like that. Once you get used to it, there used to be a filter in Photoshop in Actions. Put snow in the picture. That was the name of it. So boy, I use that, and then they don't use it anymore. But you can download all of the actions that they had in the past Photoshop. So I like to frame things as you've probably done. I like to add people to my pictures. Arab people don't really like to, people from Morocco don't like their pictures taken, but they don't mind if you take a picture and they're walking by. They're not uncomfortable with that, of course. Okay. And then here, again, is this architecture, is this people? Again, whatever you like to do, I like to put the two together. And so in conclusion, be sure that all vertical lines are straight and perfectly vertical, and just that is done mostly by keeping your camera straight. If you can't get what you want up top or down below or somewhere, use a wider angle lens, and then you'll find that will include everything and then crop out what you don't want. Keep the basic lighting of the room as is. Use their lighting or HDR. Try to remember what their room looked like and have it look perfectly natural. The two ways of getting your exposure correct is one is by lighting it, and the other one is through the HDR. Sometimes I do both, and by the way, sometimes I get to a job, and you know, we even had a thing with someone told us, you and I almost got a job, and I said to the woman, or she talked to me about a job in Lowell, and she said to me, so it'll need a lot of lighting. I said, well, I was just thinking of doing HDR. She said, HDR? I said, well, it's just high dynamic range. I take a series of pictures and put them together. She says, I've never heard of such a thing. That's ridiculous. So, you know, what's the answer to that? Is, oh, okay, I'll light it. No, did I say that? No, I said, oh no, HDR is really very good. And I tried to convince the woman to use HDR, and that was so silly. So I never got that job. My friend Alyssa got it, and she used HDR and did a fabulous job. As long as Alyssa got it, I'm very happy. But sometimes sometimes I just, especially a new customer, I don't mean to be untrue about something, but I will set up all my lighting, and I will do it with the lighting, and then at the end, when I just turn the lighting off, my assistant turns it off, and I go click, 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 click. That's my HDR. Now I have it lighted, and I have my HDR, and no one will know which one I've used. No one will ever be able to tell the difference. So that's about it. Have fun in architectural photography. Try it at home. It's a matter of just practicing, and you'll get better. Do you have any questions? We just have a minute or two for questions if anybody has any questions as we're going along. I know we had a few questions as we went along. Yes? Okay, drag the shutter is the question. If you put your aperture on one place, you know, f11 or f16, and then you say, okay, the right lighting for this should be 1/25th of a second, but I don't want to put it there. I'm going to just drag the shutter. It means bring your shutter speed down to 1/4 of a second or 1/2 a second. You're leaving the shutter open longer. The dark things aren't going to get much lighter. It's going to be very little difference, but the light things will get lighter. Gives a lot of depth to your pictures. Yep. Yes, sir.
Do you have any recommendations for what you use for metering when you're not using your camera, you're using the external metering tool?
Well, you know, I think all meters work pretty well. I have about 4 of them. And, you know, sometimes I have some in the trunk of my car. We just whatever one I have, it seems to come out right. So I would say they're all pretty good. I mean, if they're off by 1/4 of a step, you're going to see that in the back of your camera anyway. So I would say any kind of a meter works pretty well. Same with the lighting. They all work pretty well. Any more questions? Yes. Yes.
Can you just again go over the best time of day for the lighting and exterior?
The best time of day is sunrise or sunset. The lighting is warmer. It's side lighted rather than overhead. So the best time of day for any pictures, that's not even, exterior pictures, almost any one time I was on a trip, and we were going somewhere. We had to be some Jamaica races or something at 7 in the morning, so we left at 5, and the sun started coming out. I said, oh, look at that. He said, we can't stop now. I said, oh, and look at that little guy. Oh, my God. He said, well, get him on the way home. On the way home was 2 o'clock. There was no picture then. So your best lighting is when the sun comes up around that, maybe half an hour now time, and then that. Same with the sun setting. That's called the magic house.
Shooting like a building, would you want to make sure it lit the whole building?
Well, depending if it's for a job, you have to make sure it's lighting. So you have to go and look at the orientation of the building. Yes, you do have to do that first. That's the most important thing. But you can always lighten it up in Photoshop too if you take it raw. So the best time for most, if it's enough light on it, the best time is during those peak hours, those sunrise and sunset. More questions? I saw a few more hands. Yes.
You mentioned a cloud brush.
If you go on to brushes, Photoshop brushes, there'll be all kinds of free ones. There'll be some that you can pay for too. There are brushes, and they just say put in cloud brushes in Photoshop, and you'll get brushes. You put white as your foreground color, and you have to have a blue sky, and you put your beautiful clouds in. Almost all my pictures have clouds in them, and there are all kinds of different clouds. You can I'm not a great drawer, so I would just use the cloud brushes, but beautiful clouds. Yeah, you just click. Say, oh, that's a little too far to the left. Click, or whatever. No, cloud brush is easy to use, very easy. And yes, sir, somebody back there. Yes, sir.
Tell us how you learned photography, but you didn't say how you learned Photoshop.
Photoshop. I hired a man in Boston I started with Photoshop 3, not CS3, but 3. And I took one look at that program, and I knew nothing. I mean, I actually hadn't even bought it. I just saw someone else's. I thought, okay. So I called up a friend who said her son knows Photoshop. I don't know. And he did. He came up once a week for 7 weeks to my house, 7 or 8 weeks, I think. And once or twice a week for a couple of hours each time. I gave him bonuses because I was so happy. He gave me homework to do, and I practiced and I practiced. And my pictures are so lousy sometimes. I needed Photoshop. I really needed to know how to do this. And then I finally just learned it. I just practice and practice. Kelby Training is another one. You can sign on to Kelby Training. You'll learn everything you need to know with Kelby Training. But it's really a matter of practice. I'm not terribly artistic, but in Photoshop you learn real fast how to do things. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
I've noticed in a lot of your pictures you have multiple light sources, a different light and temperature, outside light, daylight, inside tungsten, and so forth. You gel, how do you handle it?
Well, I don't often come across too many problems with that, except for one company always has the outside light, which is very blue. With digital, I don't gel because I'm not lighting it most of the time now. I did gel before. And then they always had the tungsten, the new green tungsten, the new blue tungsten lighting, which is very, Diane von Furstenberg had all blue tungsten lighting, which is a little nicer than the green. Then they had the kitchen light, the tungsten, and it was just, I was going crazy with all the different kinds of lights. So you can do it in Lightroom. There's a new thing in the new Lightroom that you can do it with, which is quite nice. But I just make a selection around that area, feather the heck out of it at like 220 pixels, and then just change the color balance so they all kind of balance within one picture, because there are different sources of lights. That's a little more advanced for, but you can always do it. And then the new Lightroom does it for you automatically. I think you can dial in the Kelvin, and then it just turns the whole thing to whatever Kelvin, to 5500 Kelvin or something. Any more questions? Well, thank you so much for coming. It's a nice group. I hope you take better pictures now.